Hi there. I'm working on Heather Mills's piece at the moment, obviously a torso piece, and I've finished doing the back, I think. Sometimes I go back and look at pieces afterwards that I think are finished and then just change them slightly, but I think it's more or less there. And I'm now working on the design on the front. Right. These cloths and things here are to help keep the clay workable. The clay itself will dry out fairly quickly, and it becomes harder and it crumbles when you work on it, so you need to keep it fairly damp. And because it's winter, it's snowing outside, it's quite warm in here, keep the house warm, but the effect on the piece is that it can dry out too quickly. So what I've got are just cleaning cloths. They're nice and light, and I put them under the tap, really wring them out so that they stay damp rather than being dripping wet. And then I wrap the piece like this and then put it in plastic, and that just sort of gently puts the moisture back in from day to day. If you overdo it or you use cloth that's too heavy, it can make the work collapse. So you have to be careful about that. Right. Okay, so that's her back and her bottom, obviously. What I've done with this piece is the same as my other sports people, in that it's got like a stylised musculature. I've got books on anatomy that show the different levels through from bones through the muscles being built up towards the surface. And but I want something that's sort of like patterned and attractive, but sort of suggests areas of the construction where, you know, the edges of the pelvic bones go, where the areas that the ribs go, where the spine goes. But it's meant, I know that it's totally inaccurate. For those of you who have got some anatomical knowledge, you'll realise that this is totally off. But for me, the idea is to show strength and balance and structure, and that there's a pattern to this strength. So it's supposed to be stylised, that's what it's supposed to be. And then on the front, at the moment, this is, I don't know how much you'll be able to see because it's just started. I've got the outline of an image of Heather. There's a really nice, one of the official pictures of her skiing that she's lent me. And it's just fantastic. She's clocked over 120 kilometres an hour on skis, which is phenomenal. And she's hoping to be in the Paralympic Games at Sochi in 2014. So that's very central to her life at the moment because she spends half her time training. But behind it, in these, when you probably know because some of you are from Canada and quite a few in America, and you probably go skiing. But if you see tracks in fairly virgin snow, some people actually will make patterns. My sister, who spent years and years skiing, actually sent me a whole load of pictures that she took when she was in Colorado skiing, of patterns that where she had sort of skied in curves down the mountainside with somebody else, and they'd managed to make fantastic and beautiful patterns. So what I've done up here is I've used some of the patterns that Elaine sent me through, and have started carving them in to go behind, as though somehow Heather's made these marks. But actually, if you read through the patterning, you will read numbers into it, because for instance, this is 21 million here. It's 21000 running up, and then there's 400,000, 400,000. There's going to be 120, there's 120, which is the speed. But each of these represent things. So for instance, 21 million, the square meterage of the land that Heather helped clear through raising money to clear landmines. They cleared 21 million metres of landmines, which helped 400,000 people who lived in that area to protect them. The other 400,000 is the number of people who had benefited by a charity that had helped set up when she was younger to recycle prosthetics from the Western world and the developed world where they were thrown away, and recycle them to send them out to the developing world and to countries where there are landmines and people had lost legs. So there are 400,000 people who've got limbs because of Heather's efforts. There's a 20 million in there somewhere, which is the $20 million that she's raised for charity. Anyway, so there are lots of numbers, and I mean, she is an interesting person who's done so much, but actually she's got all these fantastic things she's done behind her, and yet people focus on her for other reasons. So part of this piece is actually to try and rebalance that a bit and say, you know, because I'm just so impressed by her and what she's done, it makes me feel rather inadequate in the couple of £1,000 I've raised. So I just wanted to have that in her tracks, but for it to be a physically beautiful piece. I mean, she's a very attractive lady, and I wanted it to be something that when you look at it as a whole, it's beautiful and it's got this patterning on it. But if you have the time or the energy to look into it or ask questions, that you will begin to see some of the, you know, some of the relevance of the patterns behind her. Anyway, so I'm going to, today I've got a very nice day. I've got a day without too many interruptions, which I'm very happy about. And I'm just going to be carving in, because at the moment I've carved these in and they're sort of like curved in the depth. It doesn't look like they're at all realistically made by ski, so I want to play around with that so that there's a feeling that they could have been made like that. Take me a while to work it out, and while I'm working on that, what I will do is once again dampen down the cloths and wrap up the back of the piece and cover it over, so, pardon me, so that it doesn't dry out over the next few hours while I'm working on the front. And I guess I've probably got, I don't know, about another sort of 4, 5, 6 days working fairly solidly on this to get it finished. And then I'll leave it to dry and fire it. Anyway, very pleased so far. Bye bye.